Hi everybody, welcome to my Tacking Up for 3 Disciplines edit featuring Huey. Now we're going to start by putting a set of 4 work boots on him, and this is something I do pretty much every time I ride every horse. And these are they're my mum's boots by the 10-minute box, and they're a great all-round protection boot to stop the horses from brushing or knocking themselves when they're working. Now we've got a fleece on him to keep him warm because this is the winter edit, so we're going to fold it back in half so that we can then put on the dressage length saddle cloth and fluffy pad. So I've had all of their saddles fitted, and some horses do need a fluffy pad, as Huey does here. Then we've got the beautiful blue Bates Artiste and my dressage girth. And I'm going to pop those on and make sure that the fluffy pad doesn't sit over the back of the saddle cloth, and thread the girth points through the saddle cloth keepers so that everything stays in place and the saddle cloth doesn't slide backwards. And I always like to make sure I do up my girth on pretty much the same hole either side, so I might do them up 2 and 2 and then only adjust them by 1 or 2 each side. Then it's fleece back on because it's cold, and then it's time to get myself ready. I've got these are Winterline Rocal gloves, and I just love them, they're so warm. My Ariat boots and Kep helmet. And I choose all of these things, like the Kep just fit my head really well, and these Ariat Volants are really hardy, and I've just got to have boots that I can live in all day long, as well as a pair of spurs, so I've got slightly longer ones for dressage. Now time for the helmet, and I think it's really important you choose a helmet that fits your head, and the Kep really hugs my head, plus it has so many safety features that I really enjoy wearing these helmets. I can wear them all day and they're super comfortable, as well as being really protective. So now we've got his bridle, and this is a flexible fit with padded leather reins, which is what I prefer to ride them in the flat. Then a Bombers DC Morgan and a Cavesson noseband. So I like to start with the Cavesson noseband, and if the horses need anything extra, I'll add it from there. I'm a little bit of a safety officer, Ross, so I love to keep my head collar still attached to the horse's neck in case anything happens and he spooks and gets away from me. Plus I've got the reins over his head. So nearly got the bridle on. Then we go halter off, and I always hook my halter up because I have this phobia if I leave the halter on the ground that a horse will stand in and get its leg caught in it. Then it's rug off, sort of folded over the gate. I'm usually a real stickler for them being folded. That is actually a little bit messy by my standards. Then get my stirrups down, and miraculously there's a mounting block. On we hop, check the girth, because Huey's actually like a little barrel and I have nearly rolled sideways off him before. And off we go for some sausage. And we're back. And all of a sudden you click your fingers and your horse is untacked. And now you can get ready for the next phase, which is the show jumping. Again, let's go and start with a set of 4 boots. So these are a set of boots. I think these are a Veritas Carbon Olympic something or other. Anyway, I've had them for ages and they've actually lasted me for a long time. And they're really easy because I can either wash them by hand or stick them in the washing machine. So we have a set of 4 boots. And then we've got a breastplate with a bib. So I like the bib for show jumping. And we'll pop that on. And then we're going with the jumping length saddle cloth and the fluffy pad. So it says Huey Jump because he's got one for dressage, which is fitted to the dressage saddle, and one for jumping, so we don't want to get them mixed up. And then my Bates Victrix and flexible fit stud girth. I'll put the links down below so that if you are interested in any of the tack that I use, you can find out where you can get it. So here I'm just doing my stud girth up through the breastplate straps as well. And there's different ways that you can do these up, and it just depends on how you want it to sit. So I've also buckled it up between the 2 front legs and also up the top to the D. Get my stirrups sorted. Now I was hacking out in this saddle last, so the stirrups are about 2 holes longer. So for show jumping, I'm going to go up 2 holes from my hacking length and then put Huey's fleece on. Now we've got the Kep with the wide brim and my gloves and a smaller set of spurs. So I don't always jump the horses in a bigger set of spurs that I do flat work with, so it's important to make sure I change those, otherwise I get a little bit too much zoom. And the wide brim show jumping helmet. This is actually a summer helmet that I use to try and keep some of the rays off my face. And now for the bridle. So Huey wears a Hanoverian noseband bomber blue running gag, and the two reins that I use here is a rubber one and then a leather one, both with chocks. And I like to use different ones so that I can tell which is the snaffle and which is the curb rein. And there you can see the running gag, and it's got orange rings to keep the bit centered in the mouth. And then with he usually wears a cavesson, but I think sometimes it's good to just discourage their mouth from opening by putting a flash strap on it, but I never really have them on very tight. Now, being Safety Officer Ross, still got the head collar around the neck because you never know when little cheeky monkeys are going to get a spook and disappear. Now, reins over the head. And then I've got to get ready to put those reins through the bib. Now I like a bib too, because when you have two separate martingale rings, if the horses are a little bit chewy and like to sort of mouth their reins, sometimes they can get their teeth hooked around the martingale ring and they get a little bit stuck, which is not ideal. So the bib helps to stop them doing that. And then I do love a mounting block, because I think that it saves me from pulling on their backs when I go to get on. Plus, I think I'm too short to actually get my foot in the stirrup. Well, that was a good show jumping ride, nice and quick. And okay, time to tack up for cross country. Let's start with a pair of bell boots. Super important, because when you're galloping, it's quite easy for the horses to overreach, and we do not need shoes to be pulled off. Then here, I've actually got probably the most ancient set of cross country boots. I've got a few of these. Now I do have their cross-country boots that I use just for competition, and I always make sure that they're worn in before they go to an event. But these are also my schooling ones, because if I do go galloping or cross-country schooling, I always want to make sure that the ones I use for competition are always clean and fresh and undamaged. So these are boots that I've had for years and they've lasted me forever, and they're absolutely fantastic. So we've got all four legs booted up and ready to go, and they're nice and firm. I have the same breastplate that I use for the show jumping, except this time I've exchanged the bib for just plain martingale rings, and I actually think they're probably a little bit more aerodynamic and lightweight for cross country. And I've got the same jumping saddle cloth and jumping pad that I use for the show jumping, as well as the same Bates Victrix saddle and flexible fits stud girth. And it's all fitted exactly the same way. The only difference that I have here is that I do put my stirrups up one hole for cross country compared to the show jumping. And that's because you're doing a lot more 2-point in the cross country than you are show jumping. Plus, I do think that it helps to pull the horses up, particularly when you're going downhill or if they're being a little bit stronger. So here I am just adjusting the stirrups up one hole, making sure I've got my girth done up really well. And then the famous neck strap. Now, the new rule states that you do need to make sure that your neck strap is attached to your saddle or your breastplate. Now, I am a big fan of a neck strap, and most of the time they wear one cross country at a competition, but they definitely wear one when I go schooling or to do fitness work. Now, the attire for me for cross country schooling or fitness work is the cap with the small brim, and then I've got one of two back protectors. So this one is my new Viper Beta 3, which I use for everyday stuff and fitness work during the week. And for competitions, I have a .2 air vest with a gas canister, and then the same gloves as well as a short whip. So I'm gonna chuck my whip underneath my stirrup leather. And here we've got his cross-country bridle. So cavesson noseband, and this is the Bomber Blue Kimberwick with my favourite rubber reins with chocks. Now he's pretty keen little Huey on cross country, and so I like to make sure that I've got a bit that suits them for each phase. So sometimes it takes a little bit of practice to get the right bit, and also, you know, sometimes I change a little bit here and there as they develop and become a little bit stronger or more educated. Now get all that done up, put the rings through the reins through the rings, and again undo the head collar. Tie it up so it's not dangling on the floor, rug off, instant mounting block, and we're ready to go cross-country schooling. See you later.